Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June 5th, 2023 meeting of the Grey Highlands Road Safety Community Partnership Committee. I am Coordinator Thompson, and I will call this meeting to order at 1:31 p.m. Moving on to the second item on today's agenda, we will have committee member introductions. I will go around the virtual table and ask each member to provide a brief introduction of themselves to the committee. Kindly note that Member Rogers has provided notice of their resignation to the committee, so they will not be joining us today. So I will just start off with the first member on our listing here, which is council appointee, Member Lowhead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So that's I'm Councillor Joel Lowhead. This is, if you we've never met before, this is my first term of council here in Grey Highlands. I live in Kimberley, so right in town, right on Grey Road 13 in particular, and road safety has been a big concern of mine even before I decided to run for council. And then when I did run for council during the election cycle, road safety and improvements, pedestrian infrastructure improvements, road safety infrastructure improvements were a big deal for me. So I'm really excited to get to work on this committee, and really looking forward to hearing everything that you folks have to say and your bright ideas to make Grey Highlands a whole lot safer than it already is.
Thank you. Next, we will have Member Wickens.
Good afternoon, folks. Dan Wickens, a councillor. I live over between the big metropolises of Badgerose and McIntyre, over in the southeast corner of the township, and looking forward to working with everybody.
And thank you, Councillor Wickens. Next, we will have Member Halliday.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stuart Halliday. I have appointed this committee as a member of the Police Services Board, and I have resided as a permanent resident in Grey Highlands since 2000. I owned a store in Eugenia on County Road 13 for 21 years, so I'm aware of traffic issues in and around Eugenia. In fact, one of the first acts that the Eugenia Community Improvement Association did was to out with Member Barnett and his dear wife, and it got the first community safety zone on Grey Road 13, along with a member from a citizen, Ferguson, who got community safety zone in Kimberley. So we've been on top of community safety since 2001. And it's my privilege to try and help to expand the concept of community safety. It's enshrined in our community, in our official plan that says that Grey Highlands will promote safety as a community and personal responsibility. So it's right there as a guideline of what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Halliday. Next, we will have Member Silverton.
Thank you. I'm Lynn Silverton. I was on council for 15 years, and I started up the Grey Highlands Police Services Board, and I'm still the chair on that board. It's an envied situation that we have with the cooperation with council, etc. And the OPP. I'm very glad this committee has been put together, because this Police Services Board certainly could appreciate any suggestions, and I do have access to the detachment commander, etc., to get advice for the committee should it be required. So welcome, and thank you for putting me on this committee.
Thank you, Member Silverton. Next, we will have Member Jones.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Bryden Jones. I've been a resident in Flesherton basically since 1989. And both my kids grew up here, and all during that time, my parents and other people in this village anyway were very aware of road safety issues, especially when it comes to students trying to get to school and some other issues. I guess the accident that happened last year in Eugenia, I think, focused a lot of people's minds on road safety, and I'm honored to be part of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Jones. Next, we will have Member McCrindle.
Hello, everyone. Rachel McCrindle. I've been living in Maxwell since 1989. Raised all our kids here, have a farm. Have been deeply struck by the accidents with Mennonites on Grey Road too. And that's why I'm here today. I really feel we need to do something seriously about that. So I'm really pleased to be a part of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Member McCrindle. Next, we will have Member Barnett.
Hello, I am Ron Barnett and I live in Eugenia. I'm the chairperson of the local Community Improvement Association. And like Stuart says, I've been concerned with road safety in Eugenia for quite a while and have been advocating for road calming measures in Eugenia for a few years now. So I'm really excited that we've got this going, and hopefully it can make a big difference.
Thank you, Member Barnett. Next, we will have Member Lewis.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kimberly Lewis. I reside out of the Rockland area, so the other end of the township, and we see lots of different activities and stuff on road safety down there. I also own Markdale Flowers, so we deliver all of our municipalities, so we see lots of different aspects of road safety in different areas too.
Thank you, Member Lewis. Next, we will have Member Harriton.
My name is Dimitri Harriton. I live on the concession road 4B, just south of Maxwell. I have seen signs of people to reduce speed posted by residents in Maxwell. And I'm also generally concerned about road safety. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Member Harriton. I will note for the committee that Member McCullough is not with us today. He did send his regrets. So that concludes all of the appointed members to the committee. We are currently, the municipality is currently seeking 3 additional members for this committee, and that has been advertised for Kimberly, Priceville, Ceylon, and Badros. So in terms of staff that we have joining us today, I myself am Coordinator Thompson. We also have the Director of Transportation, Director Cornfield, and we have the Deputy Clerk, Van Alstyne, as well here today. So moving on to the next item of the agenda, agenda item number 3. Is the election of the chair and the vice chair. So at this time, the committee is required to elect a chair and a vice chair from among its members for the current term. I will be facilitating the election on behalf of the committee. The process for the election shall be as follows. I will start with the position of chair. I will call 3 times for nominations. Each nomination shall require a seconder. The nominee is allowed to nominate him or herself. However, a seconder is still required. Once I have called 3 times for the position of chair, I will close nominations and verify that the nominees wish to let their name stand. If there is only 1 nominee, that person shall be acclaimed. If more than 1 nominee, a secret ballot vote shall commence. I will then repeat the process for the position of vice chair, and when the election is complete, I will hand the reins over to the newly elected or appointed chair. Are there any questions before we get started with the nominations? Okay, seeing none. I now open the floor to nominations for the position of chair. Are there any nominations for the position of chair? Member Silverton.
Thank you. I wish to nominate Ron Barnett. I know how he functions, and I think he'll be a wonderful chair.
Is there a seconder for that nomination? Member Halliday, thank you.
May I ask a question? What do we
Certainly.
have to do to second a nomination? Like, I raised my hand, but obviously that's not the way to
Yes,
do it.
sorry, I did see you raised your hand. Thank
Okay.
you, Member Harrington. I believe Member Halliday raised his hand first. So
Oh, no, that's okay.
okay.
So, no, that's fine. Just
So
raising
you-
your hand is fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I will call a second time for nominations for the position of chair. And I will call a third and final time for nominations for the position of chair. Seeing no further nominations, Member Barnett, do you wish to let your name stand for the position of chair?
I do.
Thank you. Member Barnett, you have been acclaimed to the position of chair. Moving on to the position of vice chair, I will now open the floor for nominations for the position of vice chair. Member Silverton?
I wish to nominate Member Harrington.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that nomination? Member Wickens? Calling a second time for nominations for the position of vice chair. And calling a third and final time for nominations for the position of vice chair. Seeing no further nominations, Member Harrington, do you wish to let your name stand for the position of vice chair?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Member Harrington, you have been acclaimed to the position of vice chair. So that concludes agenda item number 3. And I will now pass the chair for the remainder of today's meeting to the elected chair, Member Barnett.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, I guess I'm moving on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Everyone has a copy of the agenda and has probably read through it, I'm hoping. There is a recommendation with that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee approve the agenda as circulated or as amended. Councillor Halliday, or Member
It's okay.
Halliday.
Yeah, Stuart's his name. I'd like to add something at the bottom of what I like to see on a lot of committees is members' comments or open discussion at the end as something that we can have at the end of every meeting.
Oh, you mean member privilege, like?
Yeah.
Council. Okay.
That's much more succinct. Member Silverton, thank you.
Danielle, does that sound like something we can do?
So Member Halliday, we could move, the committee can move that the agenda be approved as amended to include a
Member privilege. Okay. Thank you.
And so we would need a seconder for that motion.
Okay, that's Member Lohead, sorry. So Stuart,
I request that be, we don't have to do it every time. That becomes part of our agenda format. That's
And
okay.
that is doable. The committee would need to vote all in favor of that.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any discussion about that before we start to vote? Okay, no, so let's vote. All in favor of that motion. Okay, I'd say the motion carried.
I don't think I got the agenda.
Okay.
I'm just looking at all my emails here on my phone.
Yeah, it would have come to you in an email.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, Danielle?
Thank you, Chair Barnett. The link to today's agenda has been placed in the chat. For anybody who would like to take a look, the link is available there.
In the chat?
Yes. So down at the bottom, along the bottom of your screen, you will see chat, and there's probably a red number 1 showing.
Oh, yes, that's right.
If you click on that, it will pull up the chat for this meeting, and Deputy Clerk Van Alstyne has placed the link to today's agenda available on the municipality's website there. So you should be able to browse to that location, and the agenda will be available to you there.
Okay, but if I open the agenda now, I might not be able to see the Zoom, right?
So you can minimize your Zoom or
Okay.
Lynn, did you have a suggestion?
Yes, I'm wondering if Dimitri would be more comfortable if it was sent to his cell phone.
I
So,
can certainly.
if it is sent to via email, it would be great as an attachment, for example. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yes,
I have
Danielle.
it here. I will print it right away.
That's
Okay. Yes,
Sorry for the
Danielle.
delay.
Through you, Chair Barnett, I can certainly send that to Member Hareton right now.
Okay. I'm done. Actually, I'm printing it right now.
Okay.
I hope it's printing.
Okay. I think we'll move on to the next item. While that happens, number 5, the declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations to be had of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. 6.1, 2023 Road Safety Community Partnership Committee meeting schedule. It is suggested here that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee schedule the 2023 regular meeting dates on the first Monday of the month quarterly. And they would be as follows: Tuesday, September the 5th, which is the day after Labor Day at 1:30 p.m. And then the next one being Monday, December the 4th, both at 1:30 p.m. Yes, Member Silverton.
Thank you. I feel that quarterly is not enough. At the very least, it should be every second month. I know that the Police Services Board meets every second month, and even then we sometimes feel that we should maybe have it monthly, but we haven't done that. So I think in order to satisfy the community and to do our job properly, we should meet at least every second month. That way we can, it would be, if we meet every second month, it would be four months before we get an answer to a concern or whatever, insofar as we have to wait for the next meeting, and then we have to wait for the next one to ratify it, you know.
Okay, Danielle, you have a comment?
But I also wanted to ask, sorry, Danielle, are we an advisory committee or a committee or a committee?
Read the terms.
Danielle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett, through you to Member Silverton. Council has approved the terms of reference for this committee, and I'm just taking a look at them here. Council has approved for the committee to meet 4 times per year, a minimum of 4 times per year. So that is what staff have scheduled the meetings to occur quarterly.
So Danielle, that says a minimum.
That's correct.
So it wouldn't be against council's recommendation that we do meet every other month. Right?
So certainly the terms of reference indicate a minimum of 4. So if it would be the committee's wish to meet more frequently, such as bi-monthly, that would be fine.
Okay. Joel?
Sure.
Yes, Joel.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering if this would actually require council approval in that this has some budget implications. Lynn's shaking her head. Stuart seems to be nodding his head. But I'm not exactly sure because, you know, there are staffing, you know, Councillor Wickens and I are paid for these meetings, as are the admin staff. So I'm actually just not sure about those budget implications.
I guess that's a question for Danielle again, although it seems like it was never stated anything about the budgetary considerations in the recommendations from council. Oh, Amanda, you're going to answer that for us.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. No, there is no reason for this to go back to council for a request that's such as this. If we went to monthly, I think at that point we would have to reassess. But going from 4 meetings a year to 6 meetings a year, the budget implications are fairly minor, and we can move forward with that because the terms of reference says a minimum.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Yes, Lynn?
Then I would move 6.1 with the amendment that it be bi-monthly. And that staff can fit in the Monday dates for that after this meeting.
Okay, and Stuart, you're going to second that?
Mhm.
Is there any other discussion about that? Yes, Joel.
I'd just like to say that I think that's a good idea. Actually, I think that this is an important committee, and I think that we will have more work in front of us than you know, every 3 months. So in favor, strongly in favor.
Okay. Lynn?
Sorry, it's me again. May I suggest to staff that, or to the committee, that when we do meet, it's perhaps the week before the police services board. In that way, if there's any concerns, we do have the detachment commander and other officers at our meetings. There may be some items that should be taken to them.
Okay, and do you know what dates those are?
They're the end of the month on a Tuesday, and the next one is, I need to look it up, but Danielle and Amanda are parts of that committee as well, so they have the dates. It's the 4th Tuesday, so it would be the 3rd Monday or something. Yes, Amanda. Sorry.
Yes, Amanda.
Police Services Board meeting is the 4th Tuesday bi-monthly. The next meeting date is July 25th. There is no specific reason that we would have to meet in conjunction with one another, as Member Silverton and Member Halliday can take information back and forth between the 2 committees. We would also have to check on staffing implications and other committee meetings to make sure that those timeframes would work, which is not something we can do right this moment.
Okay, so Amanda, I have another question for you. If that's the case, can we continue with this motion as it's been stated?
Sorry, with the first Monday bi-monthly or with the third Monday bi-monthly, as Member Silverton had mentioned? There's not really an
Nope.
official motion that's kind of been
Yeah.
out there, so I'm trying to get clarity here.
Lynn, do you
If
want to
I-
clarify your motion?
Yeah, I had asked that the quarterly be changed to bi-monthly. And as an aside, that staff work that out to sort of coincide. It could be the first, second, or third Monday of the same month that the police services. But that way, we've got time to pass on any concerns that you guys have, and then get responses or whatever from the OPP. Gives them time to make recommendations or even attend our meetings should we need them.
So can we make that motion without specifying dates?
Yeah, that's why I said bi-monthly. Change quarterly to bi-monthly. And then after that, when it's voted on, staff now knows that I believe the committee is quite comfortable with them working out the date just to fit in with the staff availability.
Does that work for you, Amanda?
So my suggestion would be that we do as Member Silverton suggested, that we change quarterly to bi-monthly, and we just state that we still the first Monday of the month, and we will start that in July, that rotation, so that it lines up with the police service board meetings, but we won't put the police service board part in the motion. If that makes any sense.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Okay.
So was there a seconder for that?
Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
Stuart was the seconder.
Well, okay, so I just wanted to make sure he was okay with some of the wording that we had just changed.
He's
Okay.
nodding in agreement. Yes. Okay, then. So the motion's on the floor. Any further discussion about that? All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. All right. On to 6.2. The terms of reference. So the recommendation is that the Road Safety Community Partnership Agreement or Committee receive the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee terms of reference for information. They were included in the agenda, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at that. Anybody have anything to comment about that? Seeing nobody wants to speak on that, I would say that do we need a motion to accept those terms of reference for information? Who wants to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Dimitri wants to make that motion. Anybody seconding? Okay, let's say Councillor or sorry, Member Wickens. All in favor? Okay, motion's carried. On to item 6.3, the Inkerman Community Safety Zone, which was referred to council by to our committee on February 1st of this year. Now, I wanted to speak on this. Maybe Amanda or Danielle can advise me, because I wanted to speak on this and make a motion on this.
You need to pass it to your vice chair.
Should I pass the gavel to the vice chair? Yep. Okay, I hereby pass the gavel to you, Dimitri.
You know, sorry, I don't have the agenda with me. Like, I tried to print it, but it has been printing 120 pages here. I don't know what is what.
Okay.
Sorry.
Amanda?
Member Silverton, since you have experience with chairing, would you mind chairing this portion of the meeting for Member Barnett?
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you.
So 6.3 is information given to us for our information. And does anybody, before we put the motion on the floor, does anybody wish to comment on it? Chair Barnett.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very familiar with this road. As many people are. This is where the accident happened last year. And I agree fully that there needs to be traffic calming measures taken here. The issues for me are the shortcutting through a residential neighborhood in Eugenia, made more attractive to motorists by the lowering of the speed limit on 13 to 40. And also the road sharing that happens between pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, the fact that we don't have any sidewalks or shoulders in town. All these people and vehicles have to share the same space. So the issue is not really that people are breaking the law and exceeding the limits. It's that these roads cut right straight through town. They're paved. There's very few stop signs. There's only one. And we need to calm traffic along here to keep people safe because of the way it's shared. There's also a community park at one end. And this is an arterial road that leads from Concession 8. So anybody coming from the west who wants to go to the boat launch or the beach is going to use this road. Plus, there are kids and families walking to the park, to the beach. I think that the recommendation of the Seniors Committee to lower the speed limit is appropriate. I also agree with the creation of a community safety zone. As this road does cut through residential neighborhood, it is a route, as I said, to the beach and boat launch. But these measures, I don't think they are the end result or what should be the end result here, because the more important issue is if we want to have an effective strategy for this particular road, we need to consider the redesign of the roadway in order to separate motorists and pedestrians. That may include widening the road, making shoulders, bike lanes, even putting in a sidewalk. But knowing that these things take a lot of time and a lot of money, and I don't see that council really has the budget to do this within the next few years. I think that the traffic calming measures of reducing the speed limit and creating the safety zone is what we have to do now. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member McGrindle? You're muted, dear. You're muted.
Has anyone explored speed bumps as an option for Inkerman?
It's our experience on the police board that speed bumps are not popular because they're noisy for homes.
Oh, I see.
But Director Cornfield would be the one to answer that. Do you wish to answer, Director?
Sorry, Lynn, I was waiting for Chair Barnett to call on me and I forgot that you have the chair. Apologies.
Yeah.
So Member McKinley, yeah, it is a coughing measure, speed bumps. They are loud, and county had put them in a number of years ago and removed most of them that I'm aware of. They also make it a little more difficult for winter maintenance. Basically, depending on the type of, whether it's a speed hump or a ripple of speed bumps, they do have their downsides. It wouldn't be a staff recommendation to utilize as a traffic calming measure for those reasons.
Thank you, Chair Barnett.
Yeah, I want to thank the staff for all of the reference material that they sent to us in the agenda. There's a lot of great reading there, and one of the reference sources that they sent us was called traffic calming on main roads through rural communities. I thought that was a really good and well put together document.
Oh,
And within that document, it suggests a number of different traffic calming measures, and the results of those measures as they were applied to certain community projects. And the one that seemed to work very well was the speed feedback sign. However, I know these things are expensive. The one thing that seemed to work really well that was not that expensive was the pavement legend, which is painting the speed limit right on the road in large, bright letters. And that apparently that slowed down traffic about just as much as the speed feedback sign. So anyways, just thought I'd mention those two things.
Thank you. Any comments, Director Cornfield, or on the speed limit painted directly on the road, or we'll leave it at that just now?
So, those are all budget items that we would have to incorporate is should the committee make a recommendation for any type of traffic calming to council. Part of our response would be to that would have to have budget implications of how we go about that. So picking just on the painting of on the roadway of the speed, that would be something that would be under our operational budget line item.
Thank you. Oh, may I ask, have you taken out the sidewalks at all, or are they still there? The other sidewalks that were being taken out?
Sorry, Councillor.
No, I was.
Member Silverton. I'm not sorry, don't make an understanding your question.
Well, there was a time last year when people were talking about one of the actions to be taken by your department was to remove some sidewalks. I think Ron has the answer.
Yeah, there's an old sidewalk on Pelletier.
Okay.
That's getting grown over with grass. There were no sidewalks on Inkerman.
Thank you. Member Lewis.
I just wondered too if we need to do some more, and this could be more general versus anything, of reminding the public that we need to slow down when we're in a community zone, and not necessarily, targeting one specific area, but just reminding people, period, that they need to slow down and move over when they see pedestrians or bicyclists walking. I think there's lots of things through Transport Ontario and stuff like that we can be able to access and share on social media and everything else to, inform, right? Because that's really part of our job too, right?
Like the raised fines. Anybody else have any answer? The raised fines is always good, but it's expensive too. Member Jones.
Yeah, that it seems like everybody wants to raise awareness of things. I don't know about you, but the solar powered feedback sign that you get, what your speed is, certainly works with me, because it's very visible, and I always slow down pretty much right away. And it seems to me like every little town now has those. So people talk about how expensive they are. How expensive are they?
The ones in Kimberley were donated by a friend of mine who passed, and I was her executor. They were 10,000 for the two. I think now they've doubled. So I would suggest that, because it's in between budgets, that maybe communities do some fundraisers for it, but that's just, anyway, that's, Chris, I think that's about the right price, isn't it? 10,000 each instead of for the pair.
Through you, Chair Silverton. If I recall correctly, they were 13 a piece, but I could be wrong on that, or maybe that was the budget amount we had for them. But they're
fully paid for,
design specific, so it's depending on what you want. size, the messaging, and the recording. So you would have a very large variance in costs depending
Yeah.
on what actually you wanted them to do.
Thank you. Somebody else had their hand up. Stuart,
Dimitri's ahead of me.
Dimitri.
Just, I want to point out that the lighting, street lighting, is normally not that good in small communities. That makes also very difficult for drivers to see pedestrians at night. Now, of course, this is not an excuse for drivers to speed, but good lighting would really make it easier for pedestrians to be more visible.
Thank you. I know that, and it wasn't this sad incident that happened, but I know that from some other incidents, people have to take responsibility of how they walk on these roads as well, insofar as you don't walk 3 deep when there's possibility of a vehicle coming. But I don't, that wasn't the case in Eugenia. So, Stuart.
Yes, I was going to ask Director Cornfield, there's lots of community safety zones in Grey Highlands, but I don't think any are municipal safety zones. Is that, am I correct? This would be if we get council convinced to put in a safety zone here, this would be the first one that would be truly a municipal safety zone?
Through Chair Silverton to Member Holiday. No, there are ones, most recently, I believe, in Rockland and a couple of the hamlets. We can, for our next meeting, we can provide the members with the areas that currently have.
That are under municipal control.
Not counting under municipal.
Yeah.
If I may, Chair Silverton, I just want to, and Councillor Wickens and Councillor Lowhead can maybe speak to this, but as part of the 2023 budget process, council did include the purchase of 2 mobile radar sign units. It is my understanding through the budget process that they will be utilized throughout the community, not fixed in one area.
Are you saying radar or speed signs?
Speed limit radar signs is the same thing that's in Kimberley there, only the intent would be they'd be mobile.
You're right.
Not like the OPP sign that you've seen that there's on a trailer. These would actually be affixed to a post. Excuse me, but I just wanted to make the members aware that there is actually, they are actually under order right now. We have not taken delivery.
Good, thank you. Yes, Councillor Lowhead.
I'll come back.
Sorry, Stuart.
No, that's okay.
Stuart, Stuart, go ahead. I'll speak after you. Go ahead.
Yes. Personally, I do like what I hear about speed bumps. There are in Waterloo. I think they're about 4 feet wide, and they are effective. They have big arrows on them, and etc. So I think I would make a motion that Grey Highlands Council consider making the speed limit throughout the hamlet of Eugenia to 40 kilometers an hour, effective when council passes it, because the roads going through on 13 are 40, and the roads through Kimberley are 40. So I think we really need to be consistent here, and that's a recommendation. The first recommendation that I'd like to make a motion on, that council considering making all of the roads in Eugenia, the hamlet of Eugenia, 40 kilometers an hour, and that would be my first motion.
Well, let's stop at that one then. Is there a seconder for that motion? That's Chair Burnett. Discussion, please. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor Lowhead.
I'll just say that, I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but 40 kilometers an hour isn't sort of an arbitrary number. That's been studied and looked at. So there's good data behind the reasoning for 40 kilometers an hour. In fact, it's the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto released a very detailed study showing injury and death rates at 40 kilometers an hour versus 50 kilometers an hour versus 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And that 10 kilometer an hour difference is significant. It's significant in terms of injury and fatality. So yeah, if anybody's unaware of that particular study, I actually encourage you to take a look at it. Maybe I can I'll send it out to everybody because it's available online, and it is, again, not an arbitrary number, but a truly well-researched number, and it makes a difference.
It's also studies have shown that if you make the speed limit 40, people will drive over 50. If you make it 50, they'll hit 60, etc. So, but 40 is a good number. Any other comments? Stuart?
Yes, having lived in the city of Guelph for 23 years before I moved up here, I was down Guelph the other day, and on all their stop signs in the 40-kilometer zone, they do have on the stop signs actually a reminder that it's a 40-kilometer zone sign, and throughout all of the, you might say, residential areas of Guelph, they have a little bit of a reminder that it's a 40-kilometer zone, as well as the other ones along the side. So I'd like to say that we get started there, and if we can pass that on to council to see if they would go with that, and then consider, you might say, a more specific 40-kilometer an hour zone information signs as well as part of that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Member Barnett, followed by Member Jones.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, because Chris talked about those two portable speed feedback signs, which is great. I think that's great, and they should be employed, in different spaces around wherever we have problems. One thing I'd like to say about that is we should take the data before and take the data after these things have been in place to see what the difference is, so that we can measure, how effective these things are and where they're most effective too, because that would be really valuable. So I just thought I'd mention that. I do agree with the 40-kilometer per hour limit, because 13 is 40 and people are using Inkerman's a nice, beautifully paved road. Yep. And they've gotten to know that they can go fast along there if they want to avoid that 40 zone on 13. So I think this would be really good. So yeah.
Member Jones was
next. You mentioned stop signs and how Chair Burnett, you mentioned there's only one stop sign along Inkerman. What about adding one or two more stop signs? That would definitely calm traffic, wouldn't it?
If I may, the police, it was either the Police Services Board or the seniors suggested, I think it was the police service, at the crossroads there, that there be stop signs, but council turned that down. We could repeat it, I guess. Member Halliday, followed by Member Lawhead.
Yes, well, I'd like to get this motion. I think Councilor Lawhead has seconded it. And also up in the chat box, that information that he sent, I mean, it may disappear. I suggest that our staff, if they could be so kind to forward that link by email to us, so that we could have it. But obviously, he's on target by saying that 40 has been well studied. So I'd like to see this motion voted on.
So you're calling the question?
Yep.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything before that? No. Okay. So all in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's passed. Are there any against? No. Okay. Stuart.
Yes, I don't want to be site specific ultimately, because there's a lot of other areas in Grey Highlands that need the same consideration. And we are a committee of all of Grey Highlands. But
Mhm.
it was Eugenia that somebody got killed in a traffic accident. So I see it as a focus point to get started on the 40. And then there's a lot of things that we can do as we move forward. It's the let's say it was a walking fatality, so it's something that I think we need to do. Also, I just want to generalize that the municipality receives about $760,000 a year from the province for various infrastructure needs.
Gas tax.
No, that's extra. The money for the rehabilitation of the Reed Hill intersection was, I think, financed by that money. No problem. That was an issue there, but I do think that this road safety committee needs to be involved in a lot of these things in the future, because I think that we need to have a complete analysis of how that money should be spent. And I think that I do believe in public engagement. So I'd like to see more emphasis on public engagement and how that money is spent. I won't say anything more. This is a recorded committee, so it's there for posterity. I'm pleased that we've started with the 40, and then we can, and that's without, let's say, and it's great to hear that Director Cornfield has got some of these signs. Once we get once council moves the 40, I suggest that we and authorizes that. Then I suggest that we use these portable signs on Inkerman, because it is a bypass road. All right. And so
Right.
let's get started on something rather than procrastinate. So I'd like to see that happen.
Thank you. Your motion carried, and I would ask the Director Cornfield, if I believe the OPP did a study there. It may help for your report to council that the stats on that study on Inkerman, on the usage and the speeds and things. Okay, so there is still a suggested motion that the Road Safety Committee Partnership Committee receive staff report CLS 2307 Inkerman Community Safety Zone for information. So we can receive it for information. Yes, Stuart.
Yeah, I'll motion that we receive it for committee, but I'm not satisfied that we've addressed all of the issues on that.
Right.
Which, and at the seniors committee, of which you and I are on, we recommended that that we consider a community safety zone. But let's get some baby steps. Let's get the 40, then we can move on to and once Councillor Cornfield gives us an analysis of all of the community safety zones that are managed by the municipality, then we can consider that. So anyhow, that's
thank you. Thank you.
I'll cease and desist after that.
I don't believe you. Councillor Lawhead.
Good. Thank you, Chair Silverton. And so just a little bit more further discussion on this point. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who spoke up and the suggestions. They're all good suggestions, but something that's been made clear to me, speaking to road safety experts attending conferences and looking into this more closely as a counselor now, something that's been made clear to me is that information and signage isn't enough for road safety, right? That's just something that I keep hearing over and over and over again, and especially from engineers and road safety experts. And the answer always comes back to infrastructure. And we know that that's a large capital expense, and we know that it's going to be a challenge. But I guess I just want it to be known that I want us to not be complacent with, signage and information. It helps, but it doesn't solve. The problem gets solved by improving infrastructure. And so I just wanted to voice that and let it be known that that's the direction that I hope that we go. And in specifically, there was some mention of streetlights, sidewalks, speed bumps, etc. I think all good suggestions and all, the right direction to be traveling. Speed bumps also there is a possibility for removable speed bumps. That's something that some communities employ, right? And that solves the snow clearing issue in the winter. Out they come Thanksgiving long or something like that, and back in day 2 for something like that. So something else to explore, another possibility.
Back to you, Ron.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Floki. Yeah, I'd like to, I second that motion. I would like to think that when this committee addresses an area of concern like the one on Inkerman, if we recommend lowering the speed limits, that we're not necessarily done with that particular area, that there may be more to do. Maybe that just may be the first thing we get to. But as Joel says, there's many other considerations with concerning with infrastructure, adding sidewalks, redesigning, re-engineering roads and stuff. So I think that if we can address these the things temporarily, that's great. But in the long run, I'd like to see some real change happen.
If I may.
Yeah, you are the chair
Just
for
a
now.
short while ago, Chris, Trillium was desperate to give away money for infrastructure related to seniors. Well, the seniors use that road to walk on and other roads to walk on. I don't know if that has passed yet or not, because it went to all the seniors clubs and things like that. So maybe you could grab a Google at that and see what if it's still available, or it will happen again next year. Thank you.
Lynn, do you have to relinquish the chair back to me?
I relinquished it when the dogs wanted to eat a bird on the tree.
Yes, Danielle.
I will just point out that there has not been a vote on the motion that is currently on the floor.
I'll take it back then. Sorry. The motion was
to receive the
yes,
as for information.
Yeah. Moved by Stuart, seconded by Kimberly. Did you put your hand up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So all in favor? That's carried. So I hand the chair back to the chair.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, on to item number 7, consent agenda. For consent approval, that the items on the consent agenda be approved with the exception of the items extracted for alternate consideration and amended. Or Danielle, do I need to list every one of these? They were all included with the agenda. Do we need to read through them? Yes, Danielle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. So the consent agenda, the motion that is included with the agenda can be moved and seconded. Members have the opportunity to extract specific items if they wish to have a separate action item on those specific items. However, if they wish to receive them for information with the recommendation that has been included on the agenda for those items, they can move them all the items as one motion. So unless an item wants to be distracted for a separate motion, then we can move them all together. So you would move the motion and second, and then discuss each item individually if that is the wish, and then vote after that. I hope that's clear.
Yes, as mud. Joel and then Stuart.
Yeah, so I'd like to pull the 7.1, please.
Okay.
You know, as well as 7.3.
Okay. Yes, Stuart.
I'd like to, I don't believe we're a rubber stamp committee. I believe we should the consent agendas I don't necessarily believe in. So I'd recommend that we pull everything and let's get down to brass tacks and start to discuss things one at a time. And we may go longer this time, but I just don't believe in just rubber stamping everything. So I would go along with the motion that we discuss everything on the consent agenda.
Okay.
And vote on it. I don't know whether other people agree with me, but
I do. I
believe,
don't like consent agendas.
no.
Does anyone else have anything to say about consent agendas? Is it okay that we go through every one of these? Okay, so the first one on the list is the Eugenia School Buses correspondence, which was attached to the agenda. Joel, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, and thank you, Chair Barnett. And so if everybody's read the letter, it's about, school bus safety and concerning lack of respect for bus lights. This is something that I've heard now across Ontario. There's if you all remember the Remember Adam campaign that happened from a death, a young boy, I think it was in Timmins, who was run over by a car not respecting school bus lights. And so they've had a push now to put cameras on every school bus across Ontario. I'm frankly astounded that we haven't reached that yet. You're seeing it done. We actually council just received some correspondence from Clearview Township, so just our neighbors to the east, which are moving in this direction. Other municipalities are taking this tact as well. I just cannot imagine anything more important to us as a community than the safety of our children on our school buses, and cameras on every school bus is a positive step with good data to support in that direction. So certainly something to consider there. I'd like to see maybe some recommendations from this council or this committee to council to that effect.
Okay, I'm going to go to Kimberly first and then to you, Lynn.
We actually even had an incident Friday night where our bus runs out Highway 6 or Highway 10 out towards Euphrasia Hollandtown line, and we had a member of the general public actually pass the bus on the highway with all lights fully engaged. So I definitely don't agree that this is a Eugenia problem. This is a Grey Highlands problem. And we've had many cases where, even signage on the municipal side stating school bus stopping frequently would be helpful in some areas. I requested one for my area and I was told it was going to be $2,000 to have that sign put on. So, it's very disappointing that we have all these kids getting on buses and not having any support as far as the safety of them.
Okay, Lynn?
Thank you. When the cameras were mentioned by Joel, these little cameras that ordinary cars can put on for insurance purposes would be sufficient. All they need to do is get the license plate number, which it would get when it passes the bus, and then start doing some fines and some smacking hands and things. You know, I mean, it's one thing having these signs saying it's against the law to pass a school bus when the lights are flashing, but if you're not going to carry it out, there's no point in having that sign. So if we start getting people in the community, and of course it's a whole Grey Highlands problem, it's Grey County, it's Ontario, it's everybody's problem, that we start showing that we're not going to take it anymore, and we get some fines going, and the little cameras, surely the first student should be able to provide these on their buses, and let's start scaring the heck out of speeders, people that are breaking the law. There's no point in having a retribution for people doing that if you're not going to carry it out.
Okay, I've got a
So
lot of
we
hands
could-
up.
Well, we could make a recommendation to that effect
Okay.
under Joel's name.
All right. I have a lot of hands up. So I'm going to go to Amanda first, then Kimberly, then Stuart.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. What I wanted to kind of mention is that obviously we cannot direct school buses or school bus companies to put cameras on their arms. What is happening that Councillor Lowhead had mentioned is that other municipalities are advocating to the province to mandate this on all school buses. Grey Highlands has not taken a stance on this at this point. So the only thing that this committee can really do is to kind of recommend that council take a stance on this. So that's all that's kind of within our purview of capabilities, unfortunately.
Okay. Kimberly.
I would like to make that recommendation as part of the committee that we lobby our Ontario government to help get that inundated, that we have cameras on, and it's easier for these bus companies to actually find the people that are actually doing these passing, because it takes a lot of information for them to be actually fined.
Okay. Before we get to that motion, I'm going to talk to Stuart.
Yeah, I second that motion that Kim has made. I think seriously, something needs to be done. I would like to see, we would recommend to council that they send an adequacy letter to whatever area that controls school buses, and also copy the Blue Water School Board as well with that recommendation to the province, so that they were aware that Grey Highlands is interested in it, and but it has to be a mandate, you know, for that. I mean, I've always felt that school buses should have safety belts, but you know, there's all kinds of things that you know, that we need to recommend. But let's start with making that recommendation that Kim has suggested, and I'd like to second it. Not to be a pig on that, but I just, you know, let's get it started.
Okay, Danielle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. I am just capturing that recommendation, and I was just wondering if Member Lewis could just repeat the recommendation for me so I can make sure that I have it correct in the minutes.
I recommend that we send back to council, that we send a recommendation to the Ontario government to make sure that all buses are equipped with cameras and identification systems so that people can be charged that are running the buses.
Is that good enough, Amanda?
And
Or, I
didn't
mean,
you
sorry,
want to
Danielle.
copy Blue Water?
Yeah, that would be a friendly amendment if I may, through the chair. Copy Blue Water School Board.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on that one.
Does that make sense, Danielle?
Yep.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Do we need to read that back?
Just give me one moment and I can certainly read that back.
Okay. Yes, Lynn.
I would also suggest that we copy our member of parliament, provincial parliament, and the warden.
Sure.
I mean, the more people are copied on these things, the more weight they carry.
Somebody was saying that municipalities are doing this all over the place, but not everyone. So should we copy the local? Should we copy Southgate? Should we copy Chatsworth? Should we copy? Yes, Stuart.
If you copy the warden as correspondence, all the members
Okay.
will receive that as if you copy the warden with correspondence. So, but I
Okay.
agree that everybody needs to know.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Danielle.
And I ask for clarification from the committee that the copy of the recommendation be sent to the Blue Water District School Board, the county warden.
I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
The
Did you say
MPP.
MPP? MPP?
Oh, yeah.
Did you say?
MPP
Rick
buyers.
Byers.
Thank you. That the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council lobby the provincial government for placement of cameras on school buses for the purpose of identifying drivers passing buses with lights flashing, and that a copy of this recommendation be sent to Blue Water District School Board, the county warden, and MPP Rick Byers.
Yes, Joel, you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair Bonnet. It's actually a question, and I suppose this may be for Deputy Clerk Van Elstein. I'm under the impression that other municipalities in Ontario have mandated that school buses require cameras, and so I'm just wondering if she knows or if anybody knows how that's come about, because it seems that I think that there are some municipalities that mandate it on their buses. Although I could be mistaken.
May I suggest that if the Blue Water School Board required the buses to have cameras, then all the bus companies would do it. I think if the board says you'll get the contract, but you're required to have camera, teeny tiny little on the inside of your windshield, not out on in the weather, that's what they can do.
I would think that if, as you say, Joel, that these things are mandated by councils, that council should know that or take that into consideration when they read our recommendation, maybe.
Right.
Amanda wants to speak.
Amanda, yes.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. Further to Member Lowhead's comment, so the one you specifically referenced in Clearview was, I have it in front of me right now, and they are advocating to the province to mandate it. It becomes a very tricky business when you're trying to mandate something on somebody else's vehicles. I'm not sure that as a municipality that would fall within our purview. I also think that there would have to be a quality to the camera so that the police can use it for enforcement. So that's why I think the province of Ontario, it falls under them, because that's where the what is the act that the roads fall under? Sorry, I can't think of it right now. But I think the ministry would have to, or like the province of Ontario would have to work with a few of its ministries to make this fall into place.
Okay, Lynn.
Thank you. The school board is the one that draws up the contract with the school buses. And they require seats in the buses for the kidlets to sit on. They require brakes on the buses so that it will start. If they can require a little camera that does work, and insurance companies do use them, and they're under $100 each, they're more likely to get it done if it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. But if they require that in their contracts, it's going to happen, they put seats in the buses. They got windshield wipers. You know, I don't mean to be snarky or anything. What I'm saying is it's up to the board to require things to get the contract to move the children that they are mandated to care for during school hours. So,
Okay, Stuart.
Yeah, you have to get coming and going cameras as well, because you can get people, passing, from behind as well as coming head on. So it's the type of, that's why the province really has to get involved. You need to be able to get the license plates of offenders on both coming and going. Okay, so I'll leave that up to the province to sort that out. I'm just pointing that out. So.
Okay, Dan, you have something to say? Dan? You're muted.
There we go. There, I was pushing the wrong button. Anyways, down at the Good Roads Conference, I believe that the cameras are placed on the stop arm when the stop sign comes out.
Okay.
I believe that's how they are, and they were, as Stuart said, that the cameras are pointed forwards and back, and I think the cameras are triggered when the stop arm goes out, so they're not running all the time. They're just running whenever the stop arm's out, and they can catch somebody that's doing not what they're supposed to be.
Good.
Okay, thank you. So our recommendation is to council, and with all this discussion, I think I need to be reminded of what it was. Danielle, can you read that again? The motion as it stands.
Certainly, Chair Barnett. That the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council lobby the province of Ontario for the placement of cameras on school buses for the purpose of identifying drivers passing buses with lights flashing, and that a copy of this recommendation be forwarded to the Blue Water District School Board, the Grey County Warden, and Member of Provincial Parliament Rick Byers for information.
Okay. Yes, Lynn.
I'm wondering if Danielle or Amanda or one of us can think up a little short sentence to say, the law exists, let's carry it out, but to point out that the law does exist and we never hear of anybody. I get school bus drivers complaining about people passing them. Well, why don't you, So if it's going to the government and to others, etc., it should say, thus carrying out the meaning of the existing law, repassing, you know what I mean.
Kimberly,
Could
sorry. Did you have something else to add, Lynn? Kimberly, it's Kimberly's motion. So Kimberly, did you want to add something to that effect?
Yeah, we can be able to add that concerning the fact that it already is law.
It's applicable law.
Yeah.
Okay. Thus enforcing applicable law. Yes, Danielle.
I would just like some clarification from the committee as to where they would like to have this added. Typically, this would be moved as an amendment to the existing motion that we have on the floor, but it sounds like we want to do it as a friendly amendment. So I would just like to know exactly where within the motion that we would like to have that added.
Can you read the motion again?
Yeah, that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council lobby the province of Ontario for the placement of cameras on school buses for the purpose of identifying drivers passing buses with lights flashing, and that a copy of this recommendation be forwarded to the Blue Water District School Board, the Grey County Warden, and Member of Provincial Parliament Rick Byers for information.
I would say after lights flashing in violation of existing applicable law.
You said it well, Ron. That's enforcing applicable law for a change.
Okay. Does that sound good, Kimberly? Okay,
Yes.
so I believe the motion is on the floor then. Did we have a seconder for this motion? Stuart? Okay, all in favor? Okay. That's passed, carried. Was there any against? No, okay. All right, so the next item on the consent agenda is. Oh, do we have to pass a motion? Sorry, this is another question for Amanda or Danielle. Do we have to pass a motion, Danielle, to accept each individual item on the consent agenda, or can we pass a motion at the end to receive all of these for information?
So I'm sorry, through you, Chair Barnett. The discussion that ensued when we got to the consent agenda was that the committee's wish was for each item to be handled separately. I will note that there is a recommendation that was included on the agenda for the Eugenia school buses correspondence, that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee received the correspondence for information. So it would be recommended for the committee to move that recommendation as well.
Okay, so that's the we have to have a motion for that on the floor, right? Lynn's going to make that motion.
Yeah, I'll move the 7.1 motion that's on there.
Okay, be accepted for information. Do we have a seconder? Anyone? Joel? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, it's carried. Next item, 7.2 speed limit reduction to 50 kilometers on side road 22C and third line C. Gabler and Bond correspondence. That was in our agenda. This was an item that came before council, and council acted on this, making the recommended reduction in speed limit to 50 kilometers per hour. Does anyone want to speak on this?
I would move that we receive it for information. We've basically,
Well, before we do,
sorry,
you jump in the gun. Joel wants to speak on this. Go ahead, Joel.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. So just to sort of report back from council on this for those who weren't following this. So there's a school, essentially a de facto school on those side roads. Some complaints from neighbors of that school that traffic has increased, and so has speed. And so the request to council to lower the speed limit to 50 from 80, and council then agreed to do exactly that. So that's where we're at with that. I suppose that I might ask Director Cornfield in a second as to how far away we are from actualizing and seeing those signs go up, et cetera. And I said this at council, and I want to reiterate it here, that again, signage alone doesn't solve the problem of speeding. We know that that's not anecdotal from Grey Highlands. That's well known across the world, around the world. So it's again step in the right direction. But if this institution is going to have be an increase on traffic and therefore safety in the region, then hopefully we're going to see some more recommendations maybe from this body going forward to solve that type of problem.
Yes, Dan?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why this is on here, because council's already dealt with this matter and chose to reduce the speed limit. So anyways.
I think that was a letter to the Police Services Board that was forwarded to council.
Danielle's going to explain it. Go ahead, Danielle.
I will provide some clarification. Council directed staff to forward the correspondence from Gabler and Bond to the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee for information.
Does that clarify it for you, Dan? Yeah, okay. Stuart.
I don't know whether under our terms of reference, we can enhance the, this thing, but this is a private school, which has got 100 students going there and therefore 100 cars because there's no transportation, and they want to increase it to 200. I do believe that this organization will exist. It's probably a not-for-profit. However, I do believe there's an obligation when you're running a school to enhance the safety, and our job as a safety committee to make sure that that safety is in place, and that's in our official plan. My thoughts is that when you go through Maxwell, when you go through the school in Markdale, which are both county roads, there is a light that comes on, flashing lights, and I do believe the owners of that school should be aware that they should be perhaps looked upon. I'm not sure what the regulations are, but I do believe there should be some flashing lights that are turned on during the busy times. I would have, if I had recommended, I would have recommended 40 rather than 50. But I would say that there should be flashing lights that are turned on when the traffic is that, if it's 50, so be it. If that's up to council to decide whether it be 50 or 40. But I do believe it's also up to council to have safety as paramount in their because it's part of their mandate, and there should be flashing lights that are turned on during those school hours. The county does it. Why wouldn't Grey Highlands do it in this particular instance? So my recommendation would be that council considers working with the school to have flashing lights that are turned on during the arrival and departure times for morning and afternoon sessions. This will make an awareness to the people that there is a school zone there, and there are school zone signs there. And I believe it's up to the owners of that school, to provide the funding to make that happen. But so my recommendation then would be is to make a motion that council consider flashing lights, much like the county's flashing lights in their school zones, to enhance the safety in that particular area.
Okay, Dan, you got your hand up. Did you want to say something else?
Oh, I just forgot to take my hand down. My arm must be getting tired by now, you'd think.
Yeah, you'd think so. Okay. Does anybody want to talk about?
I would like to say something.
Yes, Dimitri.
I'm aware that, for example, in Maxwell, the flashing lights are indeed on during these times when kids arrive in school in the morning and leave in the afternoon. However, also the location of the lights is important, I think. Like the lights which are on the east side on Grey Road 4, east of the school, are actually about at the school. Like they should be further out, I think. I'm not aware what the rules are for the location of such lights. Also, the lights which are on the west side of Maxwell are way at the beginning of town, and people who are driving north on Grey Road 2, turning to the right, for example, to the east, and driving past the school, would not see those lights. So this light should be relocated further east in a way, so that everybody who is driving towards the school could see those lights. So I have two issues here, at least in connection with Maxwell. One is how far ahead of the school the school zone lights should be, and the other one is that I feel that the existing lights on the west side of the school, which are right at the beginning of town, should be relocated further east to cover the traffic coming from north, traffic driving north on Gray Road 2, and then making a right-hand turn, i.e. to the east. These are my questions, really, in terms of.
Okay, Stuart, did you have something to say?
Well,
about
I agree that Dimitri has pointed out a flaw in the location of the lights, but that's a county decision and require a separate motion. And perhaps in our motion, I don't know whether we'll leave it up, but Chris is in charge. He's much more aware of where the placement, if council decides where they would place those lights. It is a dead end road, I think, 22C, or whatever, where in that area where you would put them. Might ask Director Cornfield, would you locate them? Where would you locate if council asked you to recommend that for that particular school?
Through Chair Barnett to Member Holiday. Typically the flashing speed lights, how do I word this? The school's in a rural area, if that makes sense.
Right.
The flashing lights typically are with the pedestrian traffic coming and going to the school, and as well as school buses. Not saying that this wouldn't be an area. School's a school is a school. Would there be a need for it? Quite possibly. Locations, I heard Dimitri, there would be something in the manuals about location for all of our signs. The like the book 7 for same as for construction signage and whatnot. There is a book for where stop signs, height and distance from the shoulder of the road, it would reflect where exactly those signs would be located. There is no pedestrian traffic to my knowledge coming and going to the school. That being said, 22 and third line C intersect, and I understand that the school is a very outdoors theme. They do an awful lot of hiking. So I just kind of putting all that out on the table there, that there would not be specific times that there might be more pedestrian traffic on the road outside of school drop off and school pickup. If you know where I'm going with that, because they utilize the unopened portion, which is the Bruce Trail on the 3rd, and 22C, which goes north as
Right.
I guess it's the Sigerman trail network. They have a nice trail network up in that 100 acres they have in there. So to answer you, I guess I'm not really answering your question, Stuart, but it's, something that's new to us, but it's more around the pedestrian, I would think, for the cautionary light.
Yes, Stuart.
Yeah, I agree that both are concerns. The concerns that have been written are about the vehicular traffic, and but I mean it's a final is a council decision. I mean, if you want those lights flashing all the time in a school zone, that's something that council could work out. But I do believe that there's an issue there, and especially when if you want to increase that road traffic to 200 cars coming and going, and as well as students walking all over, you better identify it as a school zone. And if you want the lights to flash continually during the week, then you would do so. But that's a council. Our recommendation is you do something about it to increase the safety of that particular area. So I think my motion covers that. But I may be wrong. So
Okay, I'm going to go back to Dimitri. You had something more to add?
Just an additional comment. I have been around there while the school closed, and there are numerous students walking either by themselves or accompanied by adults. So there is some pedestrian traffic there during school closing. Now, I was not there to watch if there is any in the morning. Yes, that was my comment. I think also, there are residents putting up their own reduce your speed signs. Nothing official, just they make them up, I think, themselves. So it must be a problem with vehicles speeding on within town on Gray Road 4. I mean, since I am responsible for Maxwell, I'm going to talk to them, of course, and see what they think. But truly, there is a problem. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't do that. Actually, I plan to talk also to, I don't know how much it's going to help, of course, but to the principal or vice principal of the school. I mean, they must have experienced something about maybe safety around the school area, because there is no proper marking for a crossover on Gray Road 4. There are some signs there, but no proper marking. And the speed for vehicles coming from the east is reduced much too late, much too close to the school.
If I may, we're going off the agenda,
Yeah,
and I would suggest that you ask that go on the agenda for the next meeting.
yeah. I was going to
And,
say something similar.
And I had
yes.
to
Okay,
say.
sorry. Okay, thank you.
I think it's a
Thank
great
you.
idea that you're going to talk
Yeah.
to the school, and maybe
As
to
an
put this on the
individual,
next
not as
agenda,
a-
we can bring your information forward on what you've learned. Dan,
If
did
I
you have
may.
something to say? Dan
Well-
Wickens? I saw your hand up earlier, and then you put it down again.
Oh, just wanted to say that we were getting off topic there a bit.
Yeah.
Or I
Okay.
wondered if Dimitri was mixed up about what school we were talking about. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lynn, what did you have to add?
Thank you. I know that the OPP did studies there. And as a result of the studies, they felt that the reduction of the speed was the answer. The private school has a very, very long driveway. And the kids that go to the school come from all over and are, I think there's maybe one local. There is very few pedestrians in that area as well, but there are pedestrians. But I think their main concern was the increase in traffic that rural area is not used to. And that's why the PSB had forwarded to recommendation that excuse me, that the reduced speed limit might sort everything.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Stuart, did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to, move on and agree
Yeah.
with it. We can deal with Dimitri's concerns at the next meeting.
Okay, Amanda?
I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention that council also asked for a staff report to come back on this area with recommended signage, and that there is a road management study or road management plan currently being done, which is going to feed into the staff report, which will eventually go back to council on this. So I think that there could be recommendations that come out of that, but at this point, we don't know. It's until the consultant comes back with their recommendations.
Okay, thank you. So the motion on the floor, Danielle, are you clear on what that is? Yes, Danielle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. I can certainly read the motion. I will note that there has been a mover, Member Halliday. There has not been a seconder for Member Halliday's motion.
Okay, so once you read the motion, we'll understand it and we'll get a seconder. If there is one.
Certainly. Certainly. The motion reads that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council consider working with the school to install flashing warning lights in conjunction with the reduced speed limit signage at an appropriate distance from the school to be activated during school arrival and departure hours in order to enhance the safety of students.
Okay, thank you. Does that work for you, Stuart?
Yep.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Dimitri? Okay. Everyone, all those in favor? Okay, the motion carries. Do we have a motion to receive that information? Lynn? Seconder? Member McCrindle? All those in favor? Carried. All right, on to 7.3. This is reference materials provided by Member Rogers that the Road Safety and Community Partnership Committee received the reference materials for the BC Road Safety Strategy, the KSG Kimberley presentation document, and the Road Safety in Canada 2020 strategy. We have read all of these documents, I hope. Yep. Yes, Lynn?
Just moving it, and a thank you to staff for giving us them.
Does anybody want to discuss this before we go to the motion? Joel?
Thank you, Chair Barnett. So just quickly, there's a lot of information there. You know, you asked if everybody read it, and I'm sure everybody nodded, but I doubt everybody did. I don't blame you. It's, you know, a lot of dense material and data in there, right? But the point is, you know, the takeaway from those pieces of information is that Ontario and Canada in general, one of the big things that stuck out to me is that we have higher road fatalities than a lot of other developed countries. Road fatalities and injuries, and that there are, you know, concerted steps that we can take towards Vision Zero, right? I think Vision Zero is something that we're going to need to discuss as this body quite a bit, which is to say, you know, getting down to, you know, zero or approaching zero fatalities on our roads, right? And again, for me, the big takeaway from that, those reports there, that information there, is that most of the time this comes down to infrastructure investment, right? And I know I'm kind of beating a horse here, but I really just want it to be known that this is the direction that you need to move in if we want to see meaningful reduction in fatalities and injuries on our roads. And I'd also like to, I know that Martha Rogers, who forwarded that on, she's recused herself or resigned from this committee, unfortunately, but thank her for that great information. And if you have, you know, taken a look at that Kimberley Safety Group's vision, it's a really excellent plan. And so if you haven't looked at it in detail, go back and look at it again, because I think it's really, you know, well thought out and a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I totally commend that group for that document. I've seen that before, and I was quite impressed with the amount of information and the detail. The fact that they put this together as a plan for their community is outstanding, and I would love to see other communities do the same thing. Stuart, did you have something to add?
Yes, that committee report was well written. The language is understandable, and they did get a grant from Capstone, and they moved ahead. If you down to the Kimberley Community Hall, you'll see a new area there for bicycles and for bicycle rests, etc., for riders to rest, and the water, you know. And so it's very well done. There's a major consideration there, you know, as to how to fund there are other concepts going forward. I think that again, we're dealing with what some people in the planning business call a stroad. It's a road that really is a street because it goes through Kimberley, and And there's needs to be a lot of more intense traffic calming. A lot of it can be financed by the county, but maybe some of the local citizens would consider. There's definitely a lack of parking in that particular area. I think maybe even bicycle lanes. There are areas would be necessary on both sides, but that would eliminate some of the parking that exists. So there's a lot of things that I think we need to dissect that report and make recommendation to council as to how we can implement a lot of those good recommendations. The province does have, and I haven't looked at it recently, but that does have some funding for various kinds of safety initiatives. So I think we need to look at the zero concept, which is idyllic, but it's still important. For example, when I was on county council, we were able to get some of those, those what I call those chop bars in front of Kimberley. That's unique to Kimberley in the county. Those little horizontal lines there. We picked that up from Caledon, but there's still a lot more that can be done. And I think we need to advocate to council so that council can advocate to the county to improve that. There's a lot of simple improvements that can be done, like Bolisters down the center with 40 kilometers on an hour that's visible in Collingwood. There's a lot of simple things that could be done, but it's a county initiative. But for example, getting increased parking may be a local initiative. That's not a county initiative. But now, bike lanes would be, if you want to put bike lanes that are green, on either side of the road and through Kimberley, that would be something that the county, would have to participate in. But remember, when you wear the county hat, anything that you give to Kimberley, you have to give to any community in Grey County. So that's why they drag their feet a little bit, because there's an implication, over and above that local area. But I haven't seen another community come up with those, what I call the Caledon, stop signs. So I'd like to dissect that at some of our at our next meeting, is to take that report and see what we could recommend to county that the county could do, but also maybe some of the things that the community themselves could do. So that's basically my concept of again, thanking very much Martha Rogers and her team down there for great recommendations. So I won't say anything more, except I'm on the record of supporting doing something.
Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, I'm also wondering how does this committee move forward? It's great what Kimberley has done here, and but there's so many things to address, and I wonder, we need to kind of prioritize what we're going to do first. And I was kind of wondering, would a road safety audit by an appropriate authority help us decide which way to go first and what we need to do? Yes, Stuart.
I don't know, but maybe our counselors can address. There is some studies going on, and maybe Director Cornfield can help us on what is being done on road safety.
Do we have a road safety audit underway? Anything like that, Joel?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Barnett. So we did approve in the budget a pedestrian safety study, and that's as much as I know actually at this point. So maybe I'll ask Director Cornfield if he knows any more information about where we are in terms of that study.
Chris?
Yes, Chair Burnett to Member Lowhead. The road safety, the pedestrian safety study has been awarded. It is currently with the consultants, and they are putting this study together. I have, as part of the RFP, when we went out to this, we requested that this come in early August back to staff. We wanted to make sure we had this study before we did some of our budget deliberations. If there was some strong recommendations, that council staff could make those recommendations as part of the budget deliberations. We also have at this point, we currently have the 2020 road management plan that council received a year ago. There's been a lot of changes in the development and the uses within our road network, whether that be commercial or residential. So council did support an update on the road management plan. And that is something that Deputy Clerk Van Alstyne had kind of mentioned about around the rural school there on 22 and the third line. We identified that as staff as one area that we wanted the consultants to focus because of the change in use in that area. I think Chair Burnett, you had mentioned, that obviously that was a rural road that unless there was somebody going for a hike, the traffic that has been compounded based on the change of use, i.e. the school. So we're looking forward for that, a little more in-depth study on that road in particular. There are flooding issues on that road as well too. There's some road widths issues. Council did ask staff to bring a report back to them, but I will wait till the road management plans and their recommendations and include that in the staff report for that intersection. So those are the two main studies that council has approved and supported, and they are both underway. And staff are wanting to receive them by the latest mid-August, so we can get them in front of council, and we have those documents to work for budgeting process.
Okay, thank you. Stuart.
Yes, well, that's good to hear, and that's terrific. Being a citizen now, I believe in public engagement as well, and now I'm on the public side. I don't like to see studies on particular areas without having public engagement. So are these consultants going to have public engagement? Because going on their own without public engagement, I think, doesn't get the community involved in making these decisions. So I'm asking Director Cornfield, is there public engagement involved? Because I was also, one time they did a study in Markdale on looking at roads and things, but there was no public engagement. So I mean, that was just one consultant's opinion, and it never went anywhere. But there was never any public engagement. So I'm asking again for the third time. We need public engagement on all of these studies.
Okay, Chris.
Through your chair to Stuart. It was not part of the mandate to have public consultation, but also these studies and reports come to council as in draft format. So council has the opportunity to have out in the community to have some public feedback, or they can make recommendations and changes or updates that they feel the plan is short on or wants more in depth on. But to answer your question outright, there's not a public engagement process for either one of us. Like these documents would be something that this committee, I think, would find some value in once they are finalized. They would be available. They're a public document for everybody to see. But you, again, coming back to your words exactly, like it's not Chris coming up with some hypothetical way we should be doing things. It's actually consultants that are professionals that look at all factors around the pedestrian safety itself. Keep coming back, streetlights, daylighting intersections, sidewalks, like those types of things.
Well, that's great. That's great, and I appreciate that. I do believe, though, that council then, if they receive a draft report, are in the position, just like they were on the garbage thing, to have public engagement and public engagement early rather than too late, before the concrete sets. So I'm encouraging our councillors to listen to this and to look at that kind of concept. There isn't a consultant that doesn't have some sort of bias. So I think we have town hall meetings. Disappointed in the attendance at the last town hall meeting in Osprey. 12 people come out. There's a lot of issues. So I'm just recommending to our councillors that they consider public engagement once these draft reports, and even they may even, it's up to them to have it come to our committee for comment as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Are you making a motion, Stuart, or just?
No, I'm just, we've got two great counselors here that are new, and I'm just saying, I know that they've got the interests of the community at heart, and they'll probably do something about it, so.
Okay, thank you. Dimitri?
Yeah. Well, I have my own area to work on, which is Maxwell and Feversham, and truly I would like to know how to go ahead with this. Like, can I just have public engagement? Can I design a form, for example, with questions to residents of, say, Maxwell, especially those who are complaining about speed of vehicles, or I wouldn't know really. I don't want to go ahead in a direction which is not agreed with by council.
Right. I would
Just
say
a question to Chris, I think that would be.
if you have a concern in your community, you'd need to put it onto the agenda for the next meeting, and then we'd have to discuss it. Hopefully you bring information about that concern, and we would discuss it. As Chris says, we'll be expecting these reports to come back. There'll be information in there that we can maybe act on with recommendations to council. I would say that everyone on this committee has their community of concern, and that those concerns would best be put into an item on one of our agendas. Yes, Lynn, and then I'll go back to Dimitri.
Thank you. The only person that can represent this committee is the chair, with the approval of the committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yes,
go about, yeah.
You
Sorry, I
have,
wouldn't make your own forms or anything like that.
right. So you do have your
Okay.
own areas to care for, but for instance, Stuart and I are all of Grey Highlands, as are the two councillors. So if there is a problem that comes to your notice, you would ask for it to be put onto the agenda. This was one of the reasons why I was uncomfortable with the quarterly meetings. It's far too long in between. And then with the committee's approval, then you would be able to go back and say this is what they thought of, what they're trying to do, and this sort of thing. And any other information that comes on it can be discussed at the next meeting as business arising from the minutes of the previous meeting. So it is there to be talked about, so no, you can't, this is a municipal committee. Therefore, we can't, we've got our hands tied in ways such as we're not used to. For instance, Dimitri, when we were on the Asbury Museum Board, we could do things because it was a community board. This is municipal, and we would need to get the municipality to do these sort of things on the agreement of the committee. Unfortunately, I don't think you were at the meetings that we were all invited to a couple of weeks ago. I think you were somewhere else, and it all explained that as well. So you were sent the overhead projections, the things that were talked about. It might be able to help, but we have to work as one. But you would bring your concerns for your area to the committee through the chair. He would get it on the agenda.
Okay.
Sorry, dear.
So Danielle can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that if you wanted to add an item to an agenda, you would send it to her. She would inform.
It goes
me.
through the chair.
It goes through me. So
Yeah,
he would.
Or she could say, "I've spoken to the chair, and this he agrees."
Would Dimitri email me then, and then I would email Danielle? Okay, is that the way it works? Okay. Dimitri, oh sorry, Amanda. Amanda, can you clarify?
Yes, I was just going to clarify through you, Chair Barnett. Any member of the committee can request that something be on the agenda, but the final approval of the agenda is usually done by the chair. So what we do is we have an email address. It's committees@greyhighlands.ca. You can email that with any request that you have to put on the agenda and CC the chair. So that way the chair knows what's going on, and if he has any concerns or anything, he will, bring it forward at that time. And if not, then we will just move forward with putting it on the agenda.
Okay.
Right, and that's
Okay.
basically what it used to be. You would go through the chair and it was, one step, but
So,
now they've got a special email. That's great.
Okay. Does that
Okay,
sound good,
so-
Dimitri?
I'm sorry, I started talking too early. So basically, I'll send an email to Danielle and with CC to yourself. Right?
Yeah. Yes, Danielle?
Thank you, Chair Barnett. Through you to Member Harrington, I would also just like to clarify that the agenda for the meetings is published 48 business hours prior to the meeting. So materials coming forward, if they could be a week in advance of the meeting date, that would be ideal for inclusion on the agenda and any questions that I might have.
Yes, Joel?
Yeah, so I think further to Dimitri's sort of question here about bringing concerns from the community, to me, we are, although we are this is a committee of council, we do have representation specifically from the communities, villages in Grey Highlands for a reason. And so, for example, Dimitri, if you'd like to go to the people of Maxwell and sort of informally petition them for information or for concerns that they have for this committee, I think you absolutely should. I think that's true of everybody here that represents one of the villages, right? So I would hope that you're going to the people in your neighborhood and asking them questions and getting them engaged, because you're the point person for them and their community, your community, to then bring to this body. So I mean, I don't think I'm out of line here to say, please do exactly that. Get engaged in Rockland and in Flesherton and Maxwell, elsewhere, and then keep your ears open and listen, and then bring their concerns back here.
You mean
Dimitri?
in writing? Like, can we approach them in writing in a form with questions and space for comments, for example? Because then I have to write down the name of the committee as well. But I also was assigned Maxwell and Feversham as areas of my areas of responsibility by council. So, but I see there are limitations here, and I just cannot go ahead.
I would say you can go ahead and do that. When you're out there talking to people in your community, you're doing it on your own behalf, not on behalf
Okay.
of this committee.
Okay, so basically the forms cannot have as a heading the name of the committee, just maybe questions regarding
Right.
road safety or something as a
Right.
heading, and then I'll just, okay. I will not write down the names of the people, just their comments. Just for information.
Whatever works.
Now, another question I have is are the results from these consultants not going to be a duplicate of the work we are doing? Because I'm looking exactly at the same thing. Especially with the Maxwell School, I'm looking at pedestrian safety, not only the Maxwell School, but also the community center as well. These are two areas where there is a high concentration of pedestrians, can be a high concentration of pedestrians at certain times, and also high concentration of pedestrians and vehicles as well. The same thing applies for the community center in Feversham. Like, I'm sure that the consultants will look at that. Am I not going to duplicate their results?
Yeah, I would think that we'd hope that they're looking at the same things. So Joel, do you want to answer that?
And why should we have two duplicate results, really?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair Barnett and Dimitri. It's a good question. And I imagine there's going to be some overlap between the study and what the concerns that you're bringing forward, yourself and from your community. But I imagine that also that it won't merely overlap. I think there's going to be more information. Hopefully there's going to be more information. This is going to be an in-depth, professionally conducted study broadly across Grey Highlands. So I think that there will be hopefully there will be much more information there, and things that maybe you hadn't considered, we hadn't considered, people broadly in the community hadn't considered. So I mean, that was the thinking on my behalf, certainly in voting for the conducting of this study.
Stuart?
Yeah, I think it works together. I think Dimitri will be better able to comment on these studies if he's done, you might say, his homework, that the people know that he's on this committee and that he is listening to them, and when these come up, he will be much better informed, all right, to be able to make comments to the consultants. So I think that's doing your homework always pays off. So that would be my recommendation. Get to know your community, get to know what their concerns are, and then you'll be able to better comment on with the consultants.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Any other comments? Right now, we're still on 7.3. Any more comments, Stuart? Yes.
No, I mean, these are. I wanted everybody to have a look at these great studies, both from the federal, provincial, and safety committees. I think we need to dissect what we can learn from each one of them, and it will take time, to look at things. But the study in Kimberley is very extensive, and I think maybe we need to at the next agenda we need to sort of kind of look at that more in depth and see what we could recommend to council to adapt some of these things going forward, whether it be local fundraising, etc. So I think it's good information, and we need to start to look at it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So we need a motion to accept the information. We'd like to make that.
Member Jones.
Member Jones? Brian? Second? Dimitri? All those in favor? Okay, it carries. Okay. We are now down to number 8 on the agenda, next meeting, which will be, it's been decided already. I think that it's going to be the first Monday of July. Is that right? I'm going to go to Danielle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. At the beginning of the meeting, there was an amendment to the agenda to add a member's privilege section. So that would come in ahead of the next meeting section.
Okay, sorry. Members privilege. Stuart?
Yes, I'd like to take advantage of this members privilege section and ask for an update on the crossing guard situation for McPhail School. I have like to hear about that. I'd like to know from staff or council. There's been 2 deaths in our communities. One in Markdale at the lights there. Whether or not whether that's been settled, and that we can ask council / county to improve the markings at that particular interchange. I was told initially when I was the chair of the Chamber of Commerce that I couldn't say anything because it was under litigation. As if it's no longer under litigation, I would certainly like to see an improvement on the crosswalk markings in Markdale. I'd also like to see something that's been asked of us for quite some time, to have a pedestrian crosswalk at Grey Gables. That's something that I'd like to see us do. There's now the hospital's coming. There's going to be more people moving across the road. I'm not sure exactly where. I'd also like to see a reconfiguration of the markings on the Highway 10 as people are moving into the new hospital, especially from the south. There's a confusion there where you've got people wanting to move into Dairy Daughter and people wanting to move into the hospital. I can see some head-on crashes happening there. So I'd like to know what the municipality is doing there. And then, of course, can we now recommend to council something to be done about the safety death, the death on Inkerman, and whether or not we can make comments and make suggestions now, if it's sort of open for comments. So those are the questions that I have, and that's kind of the end of my privilege section, and like some feedback eventually. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Amanda and then Member McCrindle.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. Members' privilege gets a little bit wishy-washy sometimes and confusing. So what we can do with members' privilege is the items that Member Halliday just requested conversations about. Those are all items that we can add to the next agenda. They were not on this agenda, so we cannot speak on them. We cannot make recommendations out of them, but that's what members' privilege is for. Is we can recommend, or we can ask that those items be added to the next agenda for conversation. If Member Halliday has specific requests that he wants to go along with those items or specific asks, he should email and get that added to the agenda as well.
I'll do that. Thank you for the good advice.
Member McCrindle.
Thank you, Chair Burnett. So I have some things that I will email you about for next agenda, but one thing I'm asking is, do we have a liaison with the Mennonite community about, better lights on their buggies and that sort of thing at night? Because it's alarming when I watch some of what happens on Grey Road too here. It's bonkers and it's scary.
Anybody got an answer? Lynn.
Thank you. Over the years, the Police Services Board has required the OPP to, there's, I think, 5 sets. So they've asked the OPP to talk with them about the safety of their vehicles. We did actually get the reflecting tape on. Then they decided, yes, they would use the little lights. But the biggest concern now that I'll be taking to the OPP through the PSP in July is the fear that many of our residents have with their skid steers. And some people have seen like 10-year-olds driving them. It's not a farm vehicle, ergo it's not allowed on the road really without a license plate. So I think if you don't mind, I will be asking, or I am asking Danielle to have that on the agenda for the police services meeting July 25th. And I do know that one of the officers, at least one of the officers, is on a man-to-man type relationship with them. It's tippy-toe and get it done type of thing. So
yeah,
they're very obliging as long as it doesn't interfere with their religious backgrounds and things. So we go from there. So if you want to leave it to the Police Services Board, then you'll see it, get a copy of the minutes, or you can even listen into that meeting. These meetings, including this one, are public.
Okay, thank you.
Dimitri, did you have something?
Yes, I find that the Mennonites are quite careful steering their horses and their buggies. And also, like I have seen, they have lights, a headlight at the front, and this triangle for a slow moving vehicle.
Yeah, the farm safety got them the triangle, and the lights are police over the last 20 years.
Stuart?
Yes, there's a lot of information that maybe it hasn't hit Grey Highlands yet, but there's a real major problem happening in rural and maybe in urban centers. But e-scooters, young people are all over the roads with them right now, and I do think we need to have some sort of insight into what we would do if the e-scooters are running around the roads in our particular area. So again, it's just something that I'm recommending that we think about and have a solution for the next agenda or future agendas before they become a problem.
What do you mean with scooters?
They're electric generator, or like an e-bike. The motivation is electric, and you can stand on a scooter, and you can go up and down the roads across them, etc.
Thank you.
All right. There used to be roller skates when I was a kid, but anyhow, there's something there that's wreaking havoc in a lot of areas. So I'd like us to think about how we would handle it, and that may be a police services thing. Maybe Lynn will talk about it at police services. Anyhow, it's just duly noted.
Okay, Member McCrindle.
What I find, yeah, both accidents that involved the Mennonite community on our road last year happened on broad daylight, beautiful days, no reason for it, just distracted driving. And I don't know how we can combat that. It's incredibly frustrating. The Mennonites, they were on the right side of the road, they were doing everything right, and they were run over. Member Singleton, do we address the Police Services Board about that often? Like, what's happening on that front?
Lynn?
For these specific accidents?
Well, yes,
that would have been handled last year. We don't have it now. I can look it up for you if you like.
Okay,
it's the same as the results of the accident in Markdale, etc.
Right.
It does take a long time, but we do know if it's closed, satisfied, or whatever. But we can bring that up at the Police Services Board and get a result on these if you wish. Or I can phone the detachment commander actually and get him to present that information at the board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And you can listen into these meetings, you know that.
Well, I'm going to now.
The council meetings and things like that. So you can refer anything to Police Services Board or council from this committee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak on members' privilege? No, seeing no one. I guess we move on now to the next meeting.
Which will be.
Did we determine that, Danielle? Was I correct? Is it the first Monday of July?
That is correct. The motion that was included earlier in the agenda, that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee schedule the 2023 meeting dates on the first Monday of the month bi-monthly, beginning in July. And I will include the next dates for information with the minutes for this meeting.
Thank you. That's the day that Amelia Earhart disappeared in 1937. You all had to know that, isn't that right, Amanda?
Amanda?
Thank you, Chair Barnett. Sorry to jump in there, but that's actually a holiday Monday. So we will not be working that day, but we will just shift it to the Tuesday as long as there's no other meetings that day.
Okay. Kimberly, did you have something to say? Kimberly, what happened? Kimberly, are you there? You're
You're
muted.
muted, Kimberly.
That was my same question because I didn't know what day the municipality was taking for their holiday. So if they were taking Friday or Monday, being it's on Saturday.
Okay. Do we need a motion to accept that, or is that just already? No, it's good. Okay. Then all we need is a motion to adjourn. Lynn, you're going to motion to adjourn? Okay, do we have a seconder? Kimberly's going to second. All those in favor? Okay. All right, we are officially adjourned. We'll see
Thank you, everybody.
in July.
Well done, Chair and Vice Chair and Danielle and Amanda for your patience. And as for Chris, you can go have a coffee now. Just a coffee.